Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Paul, I'm with the Dicey Review, and today we're going to be learning how to play the 1 to 4 player game Calico, being released by Flat Out Games and AEG. Calico comes with all of the components that you see here, including 1 master quilter tile, 5 double-sided cat scoring tiles, 80 cat tokens that match the double-sided scoring tiles, 4 dual-layer game boards, a score pad, a button scoring tile, 52 different button tokens, 24 different design goal tiles, 6 black and white patch tiles, 1 cloth bag, and 108 different patch tiles in different colors and patterns. We've placed the tiles in this bag for drawing later. On the front side of the design goal tiles, there are the same 6 goals for each player. On the back side of the tiles, there's the different player colors. In this video, we're going to illustrate using the beginner setup in the rulebook. To begin setup, place the Millie, Tibbet, and Coconut cat scoring tiles in the middle of the table. Then place the matching cat tokens next to the cat scoring tiles. Then shuffle and randomly deal out 2 of the black and white patch tiles to each cat scoring tile. Next, you'll want to prepare all of the patch tiles. You can shuffle them and place them in small stacks around the play area, or you can place them all in the bag. We've placed all of these tiles in the bag for easier access. Make sure and place the bag or the shuffled stacks of tiles within easy reach of all players. Place the button scoring tile and all of the button tokens in the center of the play area as well. Next, give each player their dual layer quilt board and their matching set of 6 design goal tiles in their player color. Your player color is indicated by these spaces on your player board, by the stitching along the edge of your player board, and on the back side of each player board. Next, the player will place these 3 design goal tiles as illustrated in this position. You can return the remaining tiles to the box. They won't be used during this gameplay. Next, each player will draw 2 tiles from the bag as their starting hand of tiles. Finally, reveal 3 tiles in the middle of the table to create the market. Once this has been done, you're ready to play. The person who most recently pet a cat will be the first player, or you can also decide randomly. Beginning with the start player and then going clockwise around the table, players are going to take turns placing patch tiles on their quilts. They'll do this until their quilt board is completely filled up with 22 patch tiles. Once players' boards are filled, they're going to get points for design goal tiles, cat tokens, and button tokens, and the player that has the most points will win. A player's turn consists of 2 very simple steps. The player must complete these 2 steps in order. The first step of each player's turn is selecting one of the 2 tiles that they have in their hand to place on their quilt board. When placing a tile onto the quilt board, a player can choose any open space to place that tile onto. So for instance, this player could choose to place this tile right here. After placing their tile on the quilt board, a player would check to see if they've gained any cat tokens or button tokens. We'll look at how players gain these tokens in just a moment. The second step of a player's turn is drawing one of the tiles from the middle of the table to replace the tile that they just placed in their hand. It's important to note that players can't draw from the bag when completing this second step. After selecting a tile to go into your hand, a player will draw a replacement tile from the bag or from the tile stacks and then place it in the market. After this, it's the next player's turn in clockwise order. Players will continue to take turns in this way until each player has filled in their quilt board. Once that's happened, the game will end. When a player is placing their tile on the board, they can gain cat tokens. They can also gain button tokens. They could even gain both on the same turn if they place a tile in the correct way. Cat tokens can be gained by placing tiles that have certain patterns on them. Each game, the cat scoring tiles will have 2 random tokens placed beneath them that tells players which patterns these cats like. In addition, each cat has a requirement to be met. So for instance, this cat likes these 2 patterns, and this cat has a requirement that 5 tiles of one of these specific patterns be placed. This cat likes these 2 specific patterns and has a requirement that 4 tiles of one of these patterns be placed next to each other. And it's also important to note that players can use the pre-printed tiles on the edge of the board to help fulfill these requirements. So let's say on a future turn, this player placed this tile right here. After this tile has been placed, you can see that 4 tiles with this matching pattern have been placed, and they're all adjacent on the board. Since 4 tiles with this same pattern has been placed, and this cat requires 4 tiles of either this pattern or this pattern to be placed on the board, the player would immediately gain one of the cat tokens and place it in this group of tiles. Each cat awards a different amount of points at the end of the game for each tile that's placed on your board. So for instance, each time a player meets the requirement of one of these 2 tiles, they would gain a cat token that's worth 5 points at the end of the game. You're also reminded of this on the back of each cat tile. The point value is printed there as well. It's important to note that there are 5 total cat tiles in the game, and each cat scoring tile is double-sided. Some of them will have different requirements. This one simply says that 6 of the specified pattern needs to be placed together on the board. But there are also some cat scoring tiles that will require a specific shape to be placed on the board in the matching pattern. So for instance, if this side of the cat tile were in play, it would require players to place one of these 2 patterns in this specific shape of 5 patch tiles in a row. As you can see, this player has completed this requirement on the top row of their quilt board. The required shapes may vary on the back side of each tile as well. For instance, this cat tile requires 4 tiles in a row. In addition to cat tiles, you can also gain button tiles when you place tiles on your turn. Buttons are gained by placing 3 tiles together of a specific color. So for instance, after placing this tile, the player gained a cat token for placing 4 tiles of a specific pattern. But in addition, they also placed their 3rd light blue tile in a group. Anytime a player places a group of 3 tiles of the same color, they gain a button token of that color. So for instance, after placing this tile and gaining their cat token, the player would also place a button token to indicate that they've scored that section as well. In addition to the colors on the tiles, each tile will also have a shape that helps you identify the difference between the tiles on the board. For instance, you can see that these 3 light blue tiles have a water droplet to indicate their color as well. Each button token is worth 3 points at the end of the game. It's also important to note with button tiles that a player can't gain a second button by creating a group of 6. So for instance, if I placed this tile right here, I would have created a second group of 3 tiles, but these tiles are all still connected. You wouldn't gain another button. If, later in the game, however, the player placed a tile right here, creating a separate group of 3 light blue tiles, they would gain another button, which would once again be worth 3 points at the end of the game. You can gain multiple buttons of the same color, but to do so you have to create separate, unique groups of 3. It's also important to note that if a player gains 1 button of each color in the game, they can immediately take one of the rainbow buttons and place it on any open patch on their board. These tokens are worth 3 points at the end of the game as well. In addition to cat tokens and button tokens, players also want to pay attention to the design goal tiles. Every design goal tile is a long-term goal that a player can use to score points at the end of the game based on the tiles that they place around each goal tile. Each goal tile will score a number of points based on the types of colors and patterns that are placed around the goal tile. If a player meets the goal of a goal tile with colors or patterns, then they would gain the point total shown in the smaller number. If a player is able to meet the goal of a goal tile with colors and patterns, then they would gain the larger number of victory points on the right side of the tile. So for instance, this tile says that it needs to have 3 tiles of one type and 3 tiles of a different type placed along its edge. This could be 3 tiles of one pattern and then 3 tiles of a different pattern, or it could be 3 tiles of one color and then 3 tiles of a different color. So let's say, for instance, that this design tile had these 6 tiles around it. The player will have unlocked the small point total because they have 3 tiles of one pattern and then 3 tiles of a different pattern. Since the players had to use more than 2 types of colors around this design tile, they wouldn't unlock the color and pattern bonus. But let's say, for instance, that at the end of the game, the player had these 6 patch tiles around the goal scoring tile. The player has 3 tiles with this specific pattern. They have 3 tiles with this specific pattern. In addition to that, they have 3 tiles of this pink color, and then 3 tiles of a blue color. So they've unlocked this goal tile using both patterns and colors. Since they did this, they would gain the larger victory point total on the right. It's important to note that tiles of a specific color or pattern don't have to be next to each other around the circle. As you can see, these pink tiles are not adjacent to this pink tile, but it still unlocks the bonus. Each of the goal tiles will have a different requirement. This tile says that there can't be a pattern or color of the same type around it more than once. They can't be equal. This goal tile says there has to be 2 tiles of one pattern, 2 tiles of a different pattern, and 2 tiles of a third pattern. Or 2 tiles of a specific color, then 2 tiles of a different color, and then 2 tiles of yet another separate color. Players will continue to place tiles until every space on their board has been filled. Once every space on each player's board has been filled, you'll then go to end-game scoring. Players can use the provided score pad to help keep track at the end of the game. The first thing to score are the designed goal tiles. Now in this example, this player has managed to have 3 tiles of one color and 3 tiles of a separate color, and in addition to that, they've also managed to gain 3 tiles of one pattern and then 3 tiles of a second pattern. So in this instance, this player has unlocked the higher point total for 13 points. On the second goal tile here, the player has 6 unique patterns around this tile, so one requirement is met, but they have 2 of the same colors on more than one edge of this goal tile. So they unlock the smaller bonus on this goal tile. And on this goal tile, the player has 2 types of one color, 2 types of a second color, and 2 types of a third color. So they've also unlocked the smaller goal on the left. This is because they weren't able to complete this goal with patterns in addition to colors. This player would score 30 points for their design goal tiles. Next, cat tokens are scored. This player has managed to place 3 cat tokens on their board. Flipping the tiles over, we'll see that this player will score 7, 5, and 3 points for a total of 15. Finally, the player would score 3 points for each of their buttons. This player has 7 buttons for a total of 21 points. After scoring these categories, the player with the highest score would win. If there's a tie, the player with the most cat tokens is the winner. If there's still a tie, the player with the most button tokens is the winner. And if there's still a tie, the victory is shared. Alright everyone, that was our video. Thanks so much for watching. We hope that it was helpful and we hope that it was informative. If you still have any questions at all about how to play the game, please comment below or email us at thedicey@gmail.com. If you want to read our written reviews and articles, you can check out thediceyreview.com and make sure and connect with us on social media or at our Board Game Geek Guild. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.